Sharp Game here, coming at you with another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com, off of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. Now, somebody sent me this article, and it's been getting a lot of buzz online. And now I saw the title a couple days ago, and when I saw the title, it said "Straight Black Men Are the White People of Black People." Now, the title itself is kind of a play on words, and it can be taken and perceived in a couple different ways. And when you see articles like this online, especially, you gotta always ask, what's the intent behind them putting this out? And who's behind it? You know, a lot of times when people put out articles like this, they're being paid to do it. And what's the purpose of it? What kind of response did they want to get? And I can almost kind of know what type of response they got, because you know, if you see the average person, black person, that sees a title like this, they're not gonna like it. And I think sometimes when they put out articles like this with headlines like this, it's to create confusion and to have people arguing or going back and forth. It's basically another divide and conquer strategy, so you gotta always keep that in mind. So I'm gonna read some of this and break it down. I mean, the article itself, it doesn't really make any sense, really. So here it goes. It feels counterintuitive to suggest that straight black men as a whole possess any sort of privilege, particularly the type of privilege created for and protected by whiteness. In America, we are near or at the bottom in every relevant metric determining quality of life. Our arrest and incarceration rates, our likelihood of dying a violent death, our likelihood of graduating high school or attending college, our employment rates, our average net worth, our likelihood of surviving past 70. I could continue, but the point is clear. But assessing our privilege, or lack thereof, on these facts consider only our relationship with whiteness and with America. Intraracially, however, our relationship to and with black women is not unlike whiteness' relationship to us. In fact, it's similar. We're the ones for whom the first black president created an entire initiative to assist and uplift. We're the ones whose beatings and deaths at the hands of the police, the community, in a way that the beatings and sexual assaults and deaths that those same police inflict upon black women do not. We're the ones whose mistreatment inspired a boycott of the NFL, despite the NFL's long history of mishandling and outright ignoring far worse crimes against black women. We're the ones who get the biggest seat at the table and biggest piece of chicken at the table, despite making the smallest contribution to the meal. Now, I don't understand the logic behind that. It's kind of, it just really doesn't make any sense. It seems like when he wrote this, he's kind of all over the place, really. And he goes on to say, and nowhere is this more evident than when considering the collective danger we pose to black women and our collective lack of willingness to accept and make amends for that truth. When did black males become so dangerous to black women? I mean, we're the most hated in American society. So how did we become so dangerous to anybody, especially black women? I mean, so this just doesn't make any sense. And then he goes on to say it's a damning and depressing paradox when speaking about race and racism. We want our concerns and our worries and our fears to be acknowledged. We want white people to at least make an effort to understand that our reality is different from theirs and that white supremacy is vital and part of America's foundation. And we grow frustrated when they refuse to acknowledge their role, and historically and presently, in propagating it. You don't have to tell white folks anything about racism in America. They already know it. They already know it. I mean, the average, I don't know, hillbilly might not know history. But if you go to any white person's house that's, say, over 300,000, maybe over 400,000, I would say, they got libraries in there, and it's full of books on American history, African history, black history. So they already know what happened. The average black person doesn't know history, but the average white person, especially educated white people, they know history. They know what happened. You don't have to explain anything to them. So it's just a waste of time talking about that. And he goes on to say, when the racism isn't blatant or doesn't appear to exist at all, we want them to give us the benefit of doubt because we've trained ourselves to be able to sense it, even in minute and barely precisable amounts, because our safety depends on our recognition of it. We share how it feels to be stopped by a police officer, or perhaps to jog down the street in an all-white neighborhood, and we want them to understand how words and gestures they consider to be can be threatening, even if there's no intention of malice. I mean, look, just being black in some of these neighborhoods, whether you're jogging down the street or doing anything, or driving down the street, walking down the street, jogging down the street, just being black in some of these neighborhoods is suspicious behavior. So that's nothing new. And that's been going on before I was born. My father told me about situations like this. So it's nothing new. Then he goes on to say, although we recognize that not all white people are actively racist, we want them to accept that all benefit from racism, and we become annoyed when individual whites take personal exception and center themselves in any conversation about race, claiming to be one of the good ones and wishing for us to stop and acknowledge their goodness. I mean, stop seeking the validations from white folks. I mean, you don't have to have discussions with white folks about anything in racism and how the social landscape of stuff that happens in America. They already know it. They're not dumb. I never met a confused white person before, especially a white male. So what he's talking about in this article is just, I mean, it's kind of watered down, and it's not even nothing new. It's not going to blow anybody away or blow anybody's mind, you know. Then he goes on to say, but when black women share that we pose the same literal danger to them that whiteness does to us, and when black women ask us to give them the benefit of doubt about street harassment and sexual assault and other forms of harassment and violence we might not personally witness, and when black women tell us that allowing our cousins and brothers and co-workers and niggas and to use misogynist language propagates the culture of danger, and when black women admit how scary it can be to get followed and approached by a man while waiting for a bus or walking home from work. And when black women articulate how hurtful it is for our reactions to domestic abuse and their rapes and murders to be what women need to do differently to prevent this from happening to them, instead of what we men need to do differently to prevent us from doing this to them, their words are met with resistance and outright pushback. After demanding from white people that we're listened to and believed and that our livelihoods are considered, our ears shut off and hearts shut down when black women are pleading with us. That's a bunch of crap. Black males been looking out for black women since the 60s. You know, I mean, if it wasn't, you know, that's a kind of like a myth or argument that a lot of that you're gonna hear within the mainstream media, that somehow black men didn't do anything to help black women, and that somehow that black males stop black women from doing certain things. It's like a myth. And you know, they kind of go back and forth. You know, that it seems like they try to make it seem like black males have something to do with black women not having equality. And that's absolutely false. You know, if it wasn't for black, you gotta have to understand, men run and control what happens in societies, not women. So to say that black men never done anything to assist black women in having more equality, that's nonsense. You know. Then he goes on to say, making things worse is that black women and girls are also black people in America. In fact, we seem to forget, whenever possessing a bad memory is convenient, the effects of racism, metaphysical and literal, and the dreaded and dangers felt when existing while black are not exclusive to black men and boys. They face the same racism we do, and the same doubts from whites about whether the racism actually exists that we do, and then they're forced to attempt to convince their brothers and partners and friends and fathers and cousins and lovers of the dangers of existing as black women, and they're met with the same doubts, the same resistance, the same questions. They are not believed in the predominantly white world or in their predominantly black communities, and we black men remain either uninterested in sincerely addressing and destructing this culture of danger and pervasive doubt, or refuse to admit it even exists. That's false. I mean, if anything, what he's saying, he's trying to say that stuff that happens to black women in society, people, and when they have stories to tell, people have doubts and don't believe them. Actually, it's the shoes are on the other foot. When stuff happens to black males, us, they don't believe us. That's been my experience. They usually give black women the benefit of the doubt in most cases. Doesn't always happen, but it happens a hell of a lot more than black males. When stuff happens to us on camera, people still have doubts, and they just try to justify why it happened, or maybe we, you know, maybe we brought it on ourselves, all kind of nonsense. So it's nonsense what he's saying. And then he said this was a older article that some lady tweeted on Twitter a long time ago. And then he said, you know, that's basically the article, really. It's by some guy named Damon Young. Yes, he's the editor-in-chief at the GQ. you know, so I guess he's like, you know, hopefully he got paid some good money to write this, because he was kind of all over the place, really. But you can check it out. It's on, this article is on theroots.com, you know, and I'll put the link below as well. Check it out. Tell me what you think about it. And so if you like what you heard, share this video with everybody that you know that cares. Subscribe to my channel. Check out my blog, chooseyourrelationships.com. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.